Welcome back to another episode of Conversations That Count. I'm your host, Jeihan, and today we're diving into a topic that often seems as taboo, but it's one that every woman deserves to explore openly: sexuality, intimacy, and the power of reconnecting with your own body. My guest is a certified sex educator and intimacy coach who helps people go beyond the quick tips and tricks and instead creates a deeper, embodied relationship with themselves and their desire. We talk about why so many of us feel disconnected from pleasure, how societal conditioning has shaped the way we experience sex, and why better sex with your partner starts with cultivating trust and connection with yourself. Whether you're in a relationship, single, or just curious about what's possible when you fully own your sensuality, this conversation is an invitation to come home to your body, release shame, and reclaim your pleasure. Let's get into it. I'm super excited to have you here, a certified sex educator and intimacy coach. I feel like it's such a really beautiful topic that we're going to go into, and so front of mind for I feel like a lot of people, especially women at the moment as well, and that connection back to self. So I'm really excited in the value that we're going to unlock in today's conversation as well. And yeah,
thank you for having me here.
Yes, so I'm just going to ask a very simple question to start with, like, what is a sex educator and intimacy coach?
So the work that I do centers all around sexuality, pleasure, intimacy, relationships, and it's all of the taboo topics that people don't really feel comfortable talking about in an open sort of setting. And so I work one-on-one with clients in coaching and helping them to really understand their sexuality, to feel more comfortable in their body, to experience more depth of pleasure. And then I also have a suite of courses that explore pleasure, relationships, connection. And so it's all about educating people about sexuality and empowering people to prioritize their pleasure.
And so do you find that there is, like, why would people come to you in the sense, like, is there a disconnection with themselves? Like, do they come from an individual perspective, or is it generally in a relationship?
I think it's a bit of both. I think that often one sort of tends to feed another, or it can be a little bit cyclical. So they might feel like initially they think, oh, I'll go see Eleanor because I'm not desiring sex with my partner in the same way that I used to, or in the same way that my partner does. And they think there's something wrong, there's something broken about me, something that needs to be fixed. And then from there they think, oh, actually it's about me and my relationship with my own sexuality. And we kind of realize that there might be some conditioning there, but there also might be some relational issues that we need to talk through as well. So it's a little bit of both. It tends to most often be kind of hand in hand.
Yeah. So the individual person there comes to you because, like, they potentially have a lower sex drive, or is it a disconnection with, I don't even know what I enjoy?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, some people, I used the language before where people feel like they're broken and they feel like there's something wrong with them. And so part of my work is really helping them to understand their own sex drive.
Yeah.
So if they do have a higher or lower libido than their partner, it's understanding why theirs might be different and recognizing that you're absolutely not broken. You just have a different way of experiencing desire. And we can work with that to actually create a better relationship with yourself and with your partner as well.
Yeah. So where do you start with having a better relationship with yourself? And I love how you mentioned it's a bit of a taboo topic as well, because, and I'm talking about myself here as well, you don't always feel comfortable in having these conversations with your girlfriends, or sometimes even with your partner, right? Depending, I guess, on the openness that you have with them as well. So, like, why is it taboo? And then, like, how do you even start that conversation and that connection back to self as well?
So I think it's taboo because of the society that we live in. You know, we live in a society that is very much like anti-sex, or it's sensationalized sex only, but we don't really value the importance of sexuality and sexual connection and feeling really comfortable in our own sexual expression. And so societal, we have to think of all of the conditioning that we've received from our parents, from our school, from religious sort of uh, indoctrination, or any kind of influences that we've had through our schooling, through general society and culture, movies, film. All of these things kind of shape the way that we feel about our sexuality, we feel about ourself. And so that's a huge part to begin with, why it feels like a taboo topic. Because, I think death, sex, and money are topics that are typically put to the side in our society and kind of pushed down and swept under the rug, and like, oh, no, we don't talk about that at the dinner table. That's like not appropriate. Yeah. But they're often topics that are incredibly important for us to talk about. Yeah. They're very real human things that we go through, and sex is absolutely one of those things. And in my view, the more that we talk about sex, the more comfortable we're going to be with it, and the more that you talk about sex in a relationship, the better sex you're going to have. So if we can open up these conversations and just talk about sex like we would talk about the shoes that we're going to buy next week or whatever it is, it's normalizing the conversation around sexuality is going to help everybody in so many different ways.
Yeah, and you learn through others at the same time, like through conversation as well. So I feel like, yeah, you're right. It's the more that we talk about and normalize it, then the more that we're going to learn and, appreciate ourselves and connect with ourselves on a deeper level as well. So intimacy within a partner is then different to yourself, and I guess you have to understand what you like. You need to be connected with who you are first and what that is for you before you can show up with the partner, right? How do you connect back in yourself, and where do you start? I guess that's probably the biggest thing in a connection to self and being comfortable in the full expression of who you are.
That's a great question. I think that a lot of people bypass the importance of your own sexual connection to yourself, and they want to kind of immediately go straight to, how can I have better sex with my partner? But having better sex with your partner starts with having better sex with yourself. Yeah. And so, when I say that, it's not just like, oh, okay, masturbate more. Because absolutely that could be a solution, masturbate more, but it's more about seducing yourself more, feeling really comfortable in your sexuality, exploring your sensuality as well, engaging with your body and all of your senses in a way that is mindful and present and embodied and intentional. That helps shift so much for you. I think a lot of the time people come to me and they just want the tips and the tricks on how to blow their partner's mind. I'm like, cool, I've got you. I can help you with that. But to have better sex with your partner, it's going to help so much if you tune in and understand your own body, your pleasure anatomy, understand what type of touch you like and dislike, explore your own body, feel really turned on by yourself, like turn yourself on, because often we rely on others to be the one to turn us on. And so we do what I call is we outsource our pleasure. Yeah. And we go, okay, my pleasure is your responsibility. You're the one that should make me feel desired. You're the one that should make me feel sexy. You're the one that should give me orgasms. And I exist purely for your pleasure. Right? And it's all of that energy, whichever direction you see it, it's putting it out, and the responsibility is away from you. And so to have better sex with a partner, if we shift the responsibility on ourselves, as well as kind of, having a conversation with our partner, that's another sort of side to the story. Yeah. But if you allow yourself to connect more with your actual body, with your sensation, that's going to just change everything.
What was your journey to get here, and how did you actually end up in this particular field as well?
So it's a little bit of, a twisty-turny story, but essentially I had my culmination, my no, I guess my origin story was that I started teaching pole dancing years and years ago. I started as a pole dancing student years and years ago, started teaching, bought a pole dancing studio in Melbourne, ran that for 4 years, saw throughout that experience of kind of exploring pole, I saw how transformative it was for so many women and students that came into my studio feeling really, really nervous and shy and uncomfortable in their bodies. And then just through the power of sensual movement, suddenly they felt really confident, they felt really sexy. And I saw how incredible that was. And so that kind of inspired me to use movement as a way of exploring embodiment. And so after running that studio for years and seeing how transformative movement was, I decided to sell the studio and I started my own movement practice that I called sensual movement and started teaching classes around that, studied life coaching, specialized in sensuality. Then I studied sex coaching and have sort of specialized in sex and pleasure and relationships ever since then. And it kind of was one step led me to the other, but it was all to do with this idea of embodiment. You know, whether that was just feeling embodied in your movement, in your femininity, in your body, in pleasure, in sexuality, in relationships and communication. Like it all relates to feeling embodied as opposed to kind of performing.
Yeah. I feel like it's such like that's a really good place to start, right? Because and this is a bit of a generalization, like there's so many the women that are so heavily in their masculine and that doing culture and that go all the time, that there is a bit of a disconnection with then who they are and they're operating from their head rather than their body as well. And so there is that disconnection and maybe numbness with pleasure, with who they are, and sensuality as well. And as you said, maybe it's a society thing as well that we aren't taught to express that in a healthy way without expressing and then someone potentially wanting something from us because we are expressing us. And so then you close it off as a protection mechanism as well. So I feel like the dance, it's such a beautiful way to then connect back into the sensuality and sexuality of us and like free expression in a safe space as well.
Yeah, dance and movement, like embodied movement, is such a powerful way to get out of your head and into your body, because that's what I find so many people come to me with, you know, whether it's they're in their masculine energy or they're like hustle culture or they're just in their head and overthinkers or people pleasers, whatever you want to call it. They're not in their body. They're not experiencing the world from this sense, right? From the senses, from the sensitivity of their body. They're not in tune and present with the world around them and the world inside them. They're living their lives up in their heads and completely disconnected to their body. And so that is why that's often one of the first things that I get people to do is connect with your body, whether that's simply by touch, some self-touch, some like intentional touch of the body to kind of bring that awareness down into it. Because I've had clients tell me that they feel like they're living their life from the neck up and they're disconnected from the neck down. And so it's like actually bringing that awareness to your body, moving your body without like a set of guidelines, without a blueprint, without a template.
Yeah.
You know, like I love dance classes and going to a class where someone's teaching me exactly what to do. And I love learning choreography. I love all that. That's super, super fun. And I think there's so much pleasure in the exploration of just like free-flowing movement. And it's honestly the quickest way. If I'm like, oh, wow, I am totally in my head. I'm overthinking everything. If I just kind of put a song on and have a little boogie for just even one song, everything shifts. It's a somatic practice. It allows you to get out of your head and into your body, and it's so powerful.
Yeah. It's so good, right? It's like the quickest way to change your state is through movement as well, which is great. So in terms of, like you mentioned a couple of signs there that women, they operate from their head rather than their body. for someone that is potentially that career woman or that businesswoman or the mum or the busyness of life, what are some of the signs that you're totally disconnected at the moment, and what are great things to implement into daily life as a practice to come back to your body?
So some signs that you are absolutely disconnected from your body is if either you don't crave sex, or when you have sex, you are not there. It's not pleasurable, you can't focus, you can't kind of get into the moment, you're distracted. I think even just like simple everyday things, like when you get in the car and then you arrive at your destination, you can't remember how you got there. You know, you can't remember the journey. When you walk into rooms and you can't remember why you walked in there, what you were looking for, it's you're disconnected, right? And if you're not craving pleasure, if you're not feeling really like comfortable in your body, or you're not even like thinking about the sensations, if you can't enjoy the small things like the feeling of sun on your face and things like that, if you're noticing that you just are thinking, and you haven't experienced pleasure in a while. And pleasure is a really broad term. I think that from a sex educator's mouth, when I say pleasure, people always assume that I'm just simply talking about sex and sexual pleasure. But I think that pleasure is this incredibly broad term. You can find pleasure in so many things. It's not always sexual. You have simple pleasures, you've got sensual pleasures, and you've got sexual pleasures. And so ways to connect more with your body and to feel more embodied and get kind of out of the head and into the body. We've already discussed the importance of movement and just shifting your state by putting a song on and having a dance. Maybe that's like a big fun kind of like shake it off kind of boogie around the house. Or maybe it's some really slow, deep, intentional touch to some really beautiful music that like makes you want to breathe, and it inspires that breath. So movement, touch, like getting and actually touching your own body, exploring different types of touch. I call it elemental touch. We've got like that firm kind of grounded earthy touch, you know, airy, softer kind of touch, aligned with the elements. Some other ways to kind of get out of your head and into your body is to tune into the senses. So just think about the 5 senses and how you can take pleasure in them. So a lot of people listening might be familiar with mindfulness, right? We all know how popular the practice of mindfulness has become over the past, 10 years. I feel like it kind of boomed and everyone was talking about mindfulness and like, oh my gosh, my life changed when I became mindful. And it's amazing. And I think that for me, mindfulness is the start, and then sensuality is like the next step. Sensuality is like mindfulness 2.0. It's not just noticing, because mindfulness is about, okay, I notice these 5 things that I can see, and I can smell these 4 things, and I can taste these 3 things, whatever.
It's presence.
Yeah, exactly. It's presence, it's awareness. And that's amazing. But can we take it deeper? Can we savor it? Can we take pleasure in it and go, oh, this fabric feels so nice. And it's not about finding the sexual pleasure in it, but it's just like savoring, like, oh, this feels really good. Or, oh my gosh, that sun on my skin, it makes me want to melt. Like this strawberry in my mouth, oh, it tastes so good. It tastes better than any strawberry that I've ever had in my life, because I've taken the time to really be present with it. So savoring your senses, like almost thinking like you're turning the dial up on your life, on your world, on the senses, up into like Technicolor. And you're suddenly like, oh my gosh, if you're like an alien that came down and was like, whoa, look at this. This is incredible. Look at all of these colors and all these beautiful smells, and how good does that taste and how good does that feel? Like really just being so deliriously like into the senses. I think it shifts things so much for you.
Find the beauty in the world around you.
Yeah.
It makes sense though, right? Like, even if you're walking in the morning, like what can you notice as well, and how can you take it all in and just like really live through the moment as well? I really love that. As you were saying that, like I think I was noticing, like I was just like touching my hands as well, like be in your body.
Exactly, because like sometimes you're like, oh wow, my skin feels really nice.
Yeah, exactly right. Or as you said, like the material, like how often do you kind of find yourself going, oh, that feels nice as well, and like that touch side of it as well. It's great awareness as well. When you're in a relationship, well, if someone's in a relationship and they've been with the same person for such a long time, and, I'm assuming it's kind of natural to, I don't want to say natural because that's probably the wrong word to use, but probably, they do lose a little bit of connection to self, to each other. Yeah. How do they reignite that spark in partnership themselves and with themselves rather than them just in a coexisting relationship?
Yeah, I think what you kind of hit on a little bit there is the difference between common and normal.
Yeah.
It's very, very common to have a disconnect build over time in a long-term relationship, but we can decide what we feel is normal, right? Because if it's normalized, we go, different. Oh, okay, well, I guess this is just the way that it's meant to be.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, like, I've been in a relationship for 5, 10, 20, whatever years. It's just normal that we don't like each other anymore.
Yeah.
And it gets normalized when we see depictions of relationships, long-term relationships being kind of insufferable on TV and movies. And I think it's really important to kind of shift your perspective and go, what kind of relationship do I want?
Yeah.
Because I think if you really inquire with most people, they're like, oh, I would love a really, really beautiful, solid, strong, long-term relationship. I want to be madly in love with my partner
100%.
for as long as we're together. And so that takes intention. I don't want to say it takes work because that kind of insinuates that it's really hard. And yes, everyone's going to go through hard times and things like this. And yes, it is very common that we feel a bit of a distance between our partner as we kind of grow on, but that often happens, I find, if you haven't been intentional. And so I often say, start the way that you intend to continue. And if you're in the middle of a long-term relationship now, then start as you intend to continue from this moment. And so if you want that really deep connection for the long term, start doing that now. Prioritize date nights. I have relationship check-ins with my partner, and it's something that I suggest to all of my clients in partnership, is to have these regular, maybe it's monthly, maybe it's every couple months, a check-in. Maybe it's every week as well, where you actually ask each other intentional questions. You have date nights that you prioritize and you intentionally create the relationship that you want. Because I think that often we get sort of stuck in this sort of rabbit hamster wheel where we're just kind of going on and doing the daily things, but we're not actually cognizant that there's other stuff around and we could kind of get off it. And so really being intentional with how you want your relationship to look. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, 100%. So it's you can reignite that spark by started dating each other again.
Yes. Okay, so reigniting the spark. I missed that point. Reigniting it is absolutely, going on dates again, but flirting with each other. Don't stop flirting. I think people stop flirting.
I don't even know how to flirt.
It's such a small thing.
Yeah.
But we do it at the start. We do it to get the partner to kind of, initiate the relationship. Everyone often reflects on that new relationship energy.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, when we first started dating each other, it was passion and fireworks and the sex was amazing and everything was so exciting. And then they get a few months, a few years, whatever, into it, and they're like, oh, I missed that. And they think, oh, I need to go and find that somewhere else to recreate it. But you can recreate it in your own relationship. You just have to be intentional about it.
Yeah.
You like I always encourage people to keep flirting, always flirt. Don't forget about making out, especially if we're talking about sex. Like, people see kissing once you kind of get into the relationship as just a gateway to sex. Oh, you only kiss your partner when it's going to lead to sex. And so I say, bring back the makeout sesh. Don't assume that kissing equals an invitation or an expectation for sex, because sometimes people just don't want it to lead to sex every single time.
Yeah.
And having that, like, that constant connection really, really helps to keep the intimacy alive in a relationship. I've done some work with the Gottman Institute, which is a relationship, the Gottman Institute. Love the Gottman Institute. Basically, it's relationship researchers who have done so much research on relationships over 30 plus years, for those listening. And they've found that there are really, really integral pieces to a lasting relationship. And one of these things is the 6-second kiss. So kissing for at least 6 seconds, it kind of releases oxytocin. It releases that sort of like the hormonal cocktail that makes you feel really bonded and close to a partner. It's enough time to be like present and connected rather than just that quick peck or just like a see you later. They often talk about meeting your partner when they first come home, when you first see them, when you first kind of meet up with each other after some time away, even if that time away has only been an hour. And then when they're saying goodbye, like you actually take the time to hug and kiss and say hello and hug and kiss and say goodbye. And that, again, that reinforces, there's all these small things, often they call it, that just compound and compound and compound. And the same can happen in the reverse, in the opposite. If you're not prioritizing date nights, you're not having clear communication, if you're not kissing and hugging and touching and being close and listening to one another and responding to their bids for attention, and being affectionate, again, those things or the lack of those things will compound and compound and compound, and it'll create distance. So it's like, are you doing things each day that create distance, or are you doing things each day that create closeness?
Yeah. Such a beautiful reminder as well. Like, I am currently not in a relationship, but if I think about, if I knew what I knew now, back then, how different like that relationship would be. And I'm excited for, the next one at the same time, like having been so much more connected with who I am as a person and connected with myself, that I now get to create that in the relationship and have the check-ins. Like, how beautiful is that you don't stop dating and you make time for each other, and it's that commitment always, like, to growth and to just experience life with each other as well. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah. And I think, we only learn and grow as we go on. And, I also wish I knew all of this earlier. But that's what's kind of beautiful about it, is that you can learn and grow and have better and better relationships, whether you're in one now or not. And also, we didn't grow up learning about how to have a good relationship, how to communicate properly, how to feel like solid in a relationship, how to have our needs met, how to look after another person in relationship and care for their heart as much as ours. And so I think it's understandable if we have fumbled along the way, but that's why it's so helpful to, surround yourself with people who are doing that, to have people that you can look up to and go, oh, that's the kind of relationship I'd like, and learn from people and inquire, with yourself, how do I want to show up better in a relationship? And, all of these things compounding will help so much.
How has this work helped you in your relationship and how you show up, even for yourself in relationship, in business as well?
Oh, that's a great question. Immensely. I spent several years kind of not intentionally single, but not intentionally not single, if you know what I mean. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I desperately need to find someone and that's what defines me. But I also was like, if it happens, it happens.
I'm in that place now.
And it's a wonderful place to be in. But throughout that time, I think I really did like study.
Yeah.
And I learned more, and obviously in my work as well, I have trained, and then I have worked with clients, and then I've got friends who are in great relationships that I've looked up to as well, and really implemented a lot of things. For me, something that was maybe a bit surprising that helped me a lot was years ago, I want to say 5-6 years ago, I was in a brief 6-month relationship, great relationship, intense relationship, with someone who was polyamorous. And at the time I was like, didn't know what that was, but I was open to it. I was intrigued. So I just like completely jumped in with 2 feet. And being the little dork that I am, I studied. And I was like, I'm going to listen to every single podcast episode that is all about non-monogamy. And I'm going to learn and read all of the books to understand what this kind of style of relating is all about, and if it matches with me or not. And I can't tell you how much I learned from that relationship about communication. It was like this awakening, because I was like, wow, in all my years of monogamy, I had never considered that we should have this conversation, this one, and that one, and that we should consistently communicate, and that we shouldn't make assumptions about what our boundaries were, what we considered cheating, what we considered, okay and not okay in a relationship. All of that was assumed when I had spent most of my life being monogamous. And it wasn't until I explored this other relationship dynamic that I realized how important and how game-changing clear communication could be. Like, I have never spoken about my feelings so much than in that 6-month relationship, because of course I was learning, there was a lot to process. He had another partner, I sort of saw some people, and there was a lot of things to kind of consider. And afterwards I was like, okay, I don't feel that I'm poly. I know that I'm not a poly person. I just am simply too exhausted to manage to like full relationships or more. But I was like, there's things about this that really resonate with me.
Yeah.
And so I kind of took the pieces that I liked, and now I'm what I would call monogamish. And I'm in a wonderful long-term, well, it will be long-term. It's only been a year, but I have the intention. It's a solid relationship. And I learned over that previous one and over the 5 years since that I know exactly what I want in a relationship, and I know the behavior that I expect and the way that I want to be treated and the way that I want to show up for my partner. I have clear boundaries and agreements, and I built this confidence to say all of that within the first few dates of like, this is the type of relationship that I want to create, and to see if that was received. And also I think that I built this strength over that time as well of being single and kind of just dating here and there and not having anything overly serious, but knowing that I was open to it.
Yeah.
And throughout that period, I think I built this resilience of like, I am comfortable and solid on my own, and I know what I want now, that I'm not going to accept what I don't want.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people can get tripped up, because maybe they want the relationship and they'll accept whatever package it comes in. And I was like, okay, no, I know I'm not going to accept any package until it's like the one that I want.
Yeah.
And I think that period of time was really, really helpful, to learn and grow and understand.
With those lessons that you learned in that particular relationship and the conversations that you very openly had, what would you recommend for people that are new to dating or probably haven't had those conversations with their current partner? Like, what are some of those questions or conversations that really should be laid out?
Oh my gosh, so many things. But what I'm going to refer to is, again, the Gottman Institute. They wrote a book called 8 Dates.
Yeah.
And like, I would highly recommend everybody go out and buy that right now. And have that just ready to go, because they talk about these 8 dates, these 8 themes of conversation that you should have with a partner, whether it's the start of a relationship or middle, to ensure that you're on the same page.
Yeah.
And so the topics were kids, family, what that means to you if you want them, money, like how you both feel about money, what abundance means to you, how you like to spend, you know, what your money story is, what your savings goals are, like, yeah, if you're a spender or a saver, things like that. Topics around like spirituality, religion, belief, goals, career, like what you want to create in your life. And it's 8 different themes. And so those kind of topics I think are incredibly important. Like what goal do you have? Like what kind of life do you want to create with a partner? And it's like, does that align? Do you have the same values? Do you have the same values in terms of like health and wellness?
Yeah.
Do you have the same values in terms of like how you want to like exist for the next 20, 30 years? Do you want to travel the world, or do they want to buy a house? Like what does it look like? And do they match up?
That, like, even you just saying that, I'm like, I wonder how many people don't even know what that means for themselves as well. And have they actually asked themselves that question and what that means for them? Because like, how do you then create that in a relationship if you don't know that for yourself? And that's where like there's that values misalignment, or potentially you've been together for like 5, 10 years and then you're going, hang on, we're not the right match here, or you might have grown apart or whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like that is such a good book for you to read by yourself as well.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's really helpful to know where you stand on certain things when you're going out and dating, so that you can kind of say like and communicate to the other person, this is what I'm after.
Yeah.
And you can work in partnership with your partner to grow and to expand on certain beliefs and goals that you have as well together. Because, you know, in a relationship, I always say there's 3 entities. It's you, your partner, and the relationship. It's not just as soon as you get together, suddenly you're a we and an us. You are a we and an us, but you're also a me and a you. Yeah. Right. And that is so important to keep in mind, and not to kind of lose yourself in the relationship, because that's really easy.
Yes. It actually is.
I've done that too many times.
Me
as
too.
well.
Yeah.
And it's nice. You're like, oh, I love merging.
Yeah.
But you also have to like recognize, okay, this is a whole other person who has their entire like life that they've lived so far, and then they have a life in front of them that they want to create, and they have their own goals and their own dreams, and then I also do. And so how can we support one another's and build something together as well?
Yeah. So great. Like, I actually love that we've just touched on all of that, because like it's just, you can apply that into your life right now too.
Yeah.
As I have a sex educator on the podcast, I kind of want to switch the gears a little bit here. Let's get into the juiciness of it, right?
Ask me anything.
So female pleasure, and I want to talk really around female pleasure, and because we've got such a beautiful creative portal within us.
Yeah.
And there's, when you access that, then it's creation, right? Yeah. What's your take on whether it's womb magic or getting in touch with your womb for creation? Like, is that, like, can you talk into that a little bit more?
Oh gosh, it's such a beautiful way to think about your body, I think. You know, the fact that, yes, for us with vulvas, with wombs, we have this ability to actually create human life. Pretty incredible. And then, yes, esoterically, if you look at that same kind of center, it is the center of creation in general, and you sort of birth ideas and businesses and projects as well as humans from that space. And I think it's a really powerful part of your body to connect with, whether that's, you know, with like in the traditional sense or not. I think it's an incredibly powerful energy to kind of cultivate, to connect to, and to kind of like, you know, run through your body, you know, this creative energy that you have, this life force energy that you have inside of you. And allowing that to kind of inform some of your decisions and to really connect in, like it really is like the seat of like embodiment.
So how do you get in touch with that as well to create that magic and to create for creation as well? What does that kind of look like, or what does that mean for a woman?
I think that when it comes to connecting to your womb, a lot of guided meditation, visualizations, I think have been really powerful that I've sort of come across in my time as well. Breath work as well to move and channel that energy through. I think even just in moments where you need to make a decision, kind of allowing yourself to drop out of your head and maybe it's down into your heart, maybe into your womb, maybe into like your pussy itself, and just be like, okay, how do I feel? How am I responding to this? Does this feel like energy in my body or not? And I think that takes practice to feel connected with that sort of side of you, with that kind of energetic response. And so, I'd definitely say to find some, breathwork practitioners that work with the sacral energy and that sexual energy as well, because sexual energy is creative as well, and you can kind of channel that into your work as well. You can move and breath and sound, and allow that kind of those feelings, those ideas to kind of bubble up from that place. I'd find some amazing kind of practitioners specifically that work with that, to kind of practice.
Yeah, to really kind of tap into that more as well. When it comes to orgasms, you've got like internal orgasms, and I feel like there's such a misconception about how like that women can actually get there through intercourse and intimacy, where the percentage is like super low, isn't it? It's like under 20% or something like that of women actually have internal orgasms. Why do you think that is? And is it something that you can, through different practices as well, that you can actually then have internal orgasms?
Yeah, I think that most people are capable of internal orgasms, absolutely. But it takes a rewiring of the way that we connect to our body and our pleasure pathways. It also takes an entirely different perspective when it comes to like approaching any type of penetrative sex. Most often, I would say that most people are having penetrative sex too soon, too fast, too quickly. They're getting there. And we need much more time. So just physiologically speaking, we need 20 to 40 minutes for our body to fully allow that blood flow to the area to feel properly engorged. And so essentially we all have erectile tissue. Like in someone with a penis, it's obvious, okay? The erectile tissue is all throughout their penis, and it's outside, it's external, and it goes hard, and we go, cool, turned on, ready to go. Now for us, we also have erectile tissue, but it's internal. So the clitoris, I should have brought my model for you, but essentially the clitoris kind of looks like a little bit of a wishbone. And it's got these little bulbs as well internally on either side of the vaginal opening. And so that is the area that most of the time is kind of flaccid, just like a penis is just like hanging out. When we're properly aroused, like actually fully turned on, and we have been for quite some time, let's say half an hour, that area fills with blood and it engorges, and so our actual vulva will sort of puff up a little bit. We'll start to feel a lot more of that blood flow, and it's then that internal pleasure will actually feel really good. If we try and have any type of penetration before that engorgement takes place, it's just not going to feel as pleasurable, because it's kind of like, touching a flaccid penis. It's like, it kind of feels nice, but it's not doing like the job, right?
Not hitting the spot.
Exactly. So we need to take that time. So it really is just a time thing in a lot of ways, but it's also about feeling that connection. So a lot of people feel completely disconnected. We've talked about feeling disconnected from the neck down, but particularly between their brain and like their pussy, nothing, right? Yeah. So you could have something inside, fingers, a penis, a toy, whatever, a crystal wand maybe, and you're like, oh, okay, I know it's there, but you're not feeling much, right? And so you do need to actually build that connection, that awareness, and build a neural pathway that goes, oh, I associate this with pleasure. And so to do that, there's several ways that you can do it. One, for example, is by kind of engaging the most reliable route to orgasm or pleasure, and maybe that's external pleasure, clitoral pleasure. Yeah. And like having that sensation as you're exploring internally with your fingers, with a toy, something like that, and building that connection that, oh, this equals pleasure, and starting to explore with like yoni massage, for example, internal massage, so that you can kind of reawaken the nerve endings there, because often they're sort of dormant and we're not feeling very much. And so we've got to build that sensation. We've got to like resensitize the area.
Do women hold trauma in that space as well?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's a lot of studies out there that kind of talk about the connection, the somatic sort of connection between our body holding on to the imprint of trauma, of some kind of traumatic episode that happened, or some sort of build-up of trauma, and our body will hold that. Yeah. And, you know, often the most common example is in your hips. When you go into pigeon pose or something like that in yoga, often the teacher will say, if you have feelings come up and you feel sad or angry, don't worry, it's fine. It's just that's where our body kind of holds emotion. And esoterically as well, our body holds emotion within our womb, within our yoni. And so sometimes, it can feel really emotional, particularly if you're exploring deeper and deeper kind of sensation, or you're touching with your fingers or with a wand internally, touching different places and pressure points. It's just like a massage, really. Yeah. You find these pressure points and you're like, oh gosh, I have to like release that. And then you can feel like lighter afterwards. Especially if you touch on the cervix at the very, very end of the vaginal canal. Super, super sensitive, can feel a bit sore and tender. It's connected to the vagus nerve as well. So it's responsible for like heightened states of pleasure, for transcendental orgasms, like brain-gasms, you know, that kind of like really euphoric sensation. But it also can hold a lot of emotion there. And often people will like have this big release if their cervix is touched. Well. Like that deep penetration can really trigger that as well.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense though, right?
Yeah.
Can you carry energy from like people that you've been with in the past as well? Like, does that then form? Trauma is probably like a bad word to use, but like, you know, trapped energy, maybe that's probably another way to use it as well. Yeah. Does that carry over from people that you have been intimate with as well? Or do you hold that, or what's your thoughts?
I tend not to subscribe to that belief, because like with that way of thinking, anybody that I have any kind of contact or anything with, I'm suddenly carrying something of theirs. Yeah. And I don't really believe that to be true. I know that it's really like popular kind of rhetoric in the spiritual space in particular to kind of have this assumption or this kind of this belief pushed on women in particular that like, oh, be careful who you have sex with, because then you're carrying their energetic imprint and like it's impacting you. I don't believe that. Yeah. I also don't hear it in the reverse. I don't hear anyone saying, oh, be careful of who you have sex with, man with a penis, because that woman's sexual energy is all over your dick now. Like, I don't love that, because it feels very misogynistic. It feels very much like slut shaming to me. And yes, we are energetic beings, and anyone we connect with and have intimate connection with, but also deep conversation with, or anything, we carry energy, and we can cleanse our energy, and we can do all of this. But I just don't ever want anybody out there to think, oh my God, because I had sex with that one person once, now I'm stuck carrying their dark energy. No, you're not. You're not. You choose how you respond to that. And it's just another way often, I think, that we demonize sexuality.
Yeah.
And that sexual freedom of choice is taken away from us, and we will sort of slut shame ourselves and go, oh, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't have had sex with that person because of these spiritual beliefs. And I think that it kind of takes your sovereignty away. And so I would encourage everybody to instead think, okay, was that an experience that, really served me? Okay, maybe not. That's okay. I can learn from it and I can move on. And not to kind of berate ourselves for sleeping with certain people. We've all had a toxic ex or some sort of situationship or
with people we shouldn't have. Yeah,
exactly. And we've also had jobs that were toxic, and family members that we had arguments with. Doesn't mean that we should never have a job again, or that we have to kind of cut that off and demonize that part of ourselves. And I just think that it's really important to allow yourself the space to be a sovereign being and to own your sexuality and to express your sexuality in the way that feels really, really good and true for you. It's going to be completely different for everybody. For some people, having casual sex on a regular basis is going to feel so fucking empowering, and they're going to really enjoy it, and it's going to feel light and fun.
Yeah.
And for other people, they may only feel that deep connection and really enjoy sex if it's in a long-term relationship. But everyone's different, and there's no one right way and wrong way. And I don't think that we carry other people's sexual energy in our womb.
Yeah. I love that you've actually, full stop. Done.
Right?
Do you think there's a difference with how women view casual sex to how men view casual sex, or is there an emotional connection more so for a woman?
Yeah, absolutely. If we're speaking in the binary, I think that yes, typically, let's also speak slightly esoterically to this point, and socially. Okay, so the social constructs, we know that often the story goes that men feel like it's simpler to have sex and have the physical connection, and it's a little bit harder to have the emotional connection and the intimacy. Whereas women, it's we crave the intimacy and the connection, and often sex is a way that we can find that, but we desire the emotional connection first. And I know there's plenty of people out there that can't really have fulfilling sex unless there's an emotional connection. And then there's also plenty of people who are like, oh, whatever. Yeah. It's just the physical act.
Yeah.
And so rather than kind of getting too caught up in the male female thing, because often I think that can kind of cause us to think, oh, well, am I the exception to this rule if we don't fit into that binary kind of categorization? Because the amount of clients that I've had who are the opposite to what society tells us, and then they think that there's something wrong with them because of that. I think that can just kind of feed into this idea. A lot of people will desire a connection because it's also about our body feeling safe. And for women, for people with vulvas, we're the ones being penetrated most often in a heterosexual setting, not necessarily all the time, but that's really, really intimate. And for men, it's more this outward kind of energy, or this expulsion of energy. They're not sort of feeling this sort of they're receiving as much. They're receiving that love and connection, but not necessarily in the same way. It's definitely different. We have different parts. Yeah. Right? But I think there's a lot more nuance here than, is probably wanted for like the popular belief, you know,
Yeah.
like, oh no, all men think this,
Yeah, it
and
makes
all
sense.
women want this, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, a lot do. And often I've had so many clients that are completely the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You brought up safety then
Mm.
for like a moment ago as well,
Yeah.
which is so important for
Yes.
women to feel safety in their body and also in relationships.
Yeah.
How, in your opinion, how do you create that safety within yourself so then you can be fully expressive and feel safe within yourself, and then also if you're in a relationship, the same way with a relationship as well, and then ask for your needs?
Yeah, great question. I think firstly, to feel that sense of safety with yourself is to actually trust yourself. So many clients I've actually had to ask them, do you trust yourself? And they're like, fuck, no, I don't.
Yeah.
And it's about, do you trust what it is that you want? Do you trust yourself to stand up for yourself and to advocate for your desires, for your pleasure, for like your boundaries? Do you have boundaries? Do you even know what they are? And so I think safety comes from that sense of self-trust.
Yeah.
And then in relationships, again, it's like that self-trust will come through. And we need to feel as though our partner kind of has us. They've got us. Yeah. They're sticking by us. And when we're talking in a sexual sense, it's like, okay, if I moan or if I writhe or if I like fully explode in pleasure or I have this kind of like animalistic response or like whatever happens in this room, in this moment, I trust that my partner isn't going to back away or go, oh, that was too much, right? It's that we feel safe with our partner, that they don't think that we're too much or too little.
Yeah.
Right? And we trust that they are there and they're sticking around.
Yeah.
And if we don't have this in a sexual setting, often for a lot of women, it can literally shut us down from experiencing our true pleasure potential. We'll go, oh, I don't know if they can handle that side of me. I don't know if they have the patience to stick around for as long as it might take my body to feel fully turned on. And so I'll shut myself down and I'll either pretend to have an orgasm or I just won't get there, and I'll feel frustrated and embarrassed or whatever comes up for you. But if we really trust that our partner, that we feel safe with our partner, we know that they've got us and that they care about our pleasure and that they're not going to just up and leave the minute this is all over, then we can soften. And it just absolutely changes our experience when we know, oh, this person's here.
Yeah. So great. Safety is such an important thing, right? And self-trust. Yeah, it's definitely something that I feel like a lot of women are still learning through at the same time, to trust themselves and trust their intuition and what their body is telling them as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What, like with the work that you're doing, and the people that you work with, like what's your vision for this space? And I know that you said you want to normalize like a lot of these conversations as well, which is fantastic. Like what's your vision and what is it that you're looking to achieve?
I think I just want people to feel really, really comfortable in their sexuality. I want people to be able to speak openly about sex and pleasure and to advocate for their pleasure. And I want people to have really, really beautiful, lasting relationships, like fulfilling relationships. I don't want people to just be in partnerships just because they've just found someone and they're like, yeah, cool, we'll just like hang around with each other for a while. Yeah. Maybe we'll have some kids, but we'll just like be roommates essentially. I want people to feel so deeply connected to themselves and to their partners and to just have this really like beautiful depth of connection with themselves, with their partners.
So great. I actually love that as well. Like, yeah, just the fulfillment of life.
Yeah, I just feel like there's so much for us to explore, and like even just in terms of the senses, like enjoying our life so much. And it's not like you know, that big grand vision board stuff of like, oh, look, I got a jet and look at my new Jeep, or like, oh, I got this dream house, wow, all the material stuff. Like, cool, get it if you want. I don't care. But I want you to deeply savor every single aspect of your life. You know, yes, there's going to be shit things that happen, but like, are you savoring those small moments? Are you enjoying the simplicity in life?
Yeah.
Are you allowing yourself to be soft and go slow and really savor? Or are you just like tick, 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 hustle, 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 grind, grind, grind? And then you get to the end of it and you're like, oh, whoops, I forgot to smell a flower.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, there was a flower? Like, you know, actually notice it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's one message that you are really hoping lands with listeners today as well?
Prioritize your pleasure, always.
Yeah. Is there anything, I feel like we've covered off like a lot of different topics today, which is great. And I know that we could have gone like a lot deeper on some of them as well. Is there anything that you are hoping that I would ask you today that I haven't, that you're like, oh, I really want to share this?
Oh, I feel like we kind of touched on a lot of amazing things. So I feel great about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'll make sure that I include all your details there as well so people can reach out to you. And it's such an important topic, I think, especially for women. Yeah, and it's definitely helped on my own journey as well, as that connection back to self. So love the work that you do. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay.